Oh my, whenever you think, look at that fish. That might be the biggest one I've ever caught. When you're throwing a lipless bait, it's almost exactly the same. Really similar. It's just throwing a spinnerbait in the wintertime. You know, you want to, when you cast up there shallow, you know, I want to hold my rod up, get it over that shallow water, pipe it a time or two, and as it gets out there a little deeper, you want to drop your rod and slow your retrieve down. It lets that bait crawl down a little bit deeper. And the key with a lipless is just whenever you can, just give it that little, I don't care if the water's 40 degrees, just give it that little twitch, and what it does is it makes that bait flare and move, you know, to one side, and it'll just draw a reaction strike. A lipless bait is really good at getting reaction bites. A lot of times in a tournament, you know, I may go down a stretch of bank with a spinnerbait and catch all the easy ones with a single hook, and come back through with this lipless and just catch, you know, you'll catch different fish that you wouldn't catch on a spinnerbait. You know, you might make them react or get down there a little deeper. It's just a different look. But you fish it a lot the same way in the wintertime. Gosh, let's get out of the trees. I don't know what I got a hold of. Either he's really mean or big, or I'm just not very tough, and he is big. Like real big. Dude, I just want to touch you. Oh my, whenever you think, look at that fish. That might be the biggest one I've ever caught on that bait. Look at how big that fish is. Look at that thing. It's like it's 3 foot long. Eyes, look how big his eyes are. There's a little point right there, and I just, you know, I fluttered that XR50 across there, and I mean, she just smoked it, and that tells me it probably wasn't a feeding bite, it was more of a reaction bite. One thing you can tell, like, look at her belly. She's starting to get a lot of pink. She's getting cold. Once that happens, I tend to kind of go towards, you know, some pinker colors. This is just starting though, so you'll see them as it gets on February, March. They'll get a lot more red in their belly. That is a big one. Or she is. 837. That is by far the biggest one I've ever caught on lipless. Dadgum begging. Bye-bye. That's so pretty. I was catching them pretty good on spinnerbait, not gonna lie to you. And we got some grass, and just the way the fish were biting, I kind of felt like a lipless bait might get some more reaction bites. That spinnerbait in this clearer water, it's just slow, you know, nothing. I mean, we caught some good ones on it, don't get me wrong, but I can't really get them to react. I can't move the bait fast enough to get them to react. So I thought I'm gonna try a lipless and see if I can, you know, pop it around them and stuff and get that reaction bite. And just by that bite, the way that fish hit, I mean, just threw slack in it after I popped it. I think that we might be onto something. You know, this bait is a lot like a spinnerbait in the fact that I can control the depth. You know, I can slow roll it out there. Now, I'm not going to go out there and slow roll it through the trees like we did a spinnerbait, but in open water, around grass, rocks, and things like that in the wintertime, you can really slow roll this thing. I can throw it up there shallow, reel it. As it gets out there, you know, let it go down deeper, 8 or 10 foot, and just pop it and be able to get a reaction bite. Where this thing works best is when the water gets really cold, it's 45, and when it gets really dirty, and or. A lot of times if I'm fishing around rock and stuff in the wintertime and it's pretty dirty and it's cold, I feel like it's, you know, borderline too cold for a spinnerbait. You know, I'll go to fishing this and kind of popping it around and trying to make them bite, try to make them react. They can hear this bait a lot better, but also it has a real tight action and it looks real even in this semi-clear water. You know, the way I'm fishing this, there's a lot of things going on here. You know, you kind of got some grass that comes out and ends in 5 or 6 foot of water, but it's really a lot like a spinnerbait. You know, you want to control the bait in the depth that you want it to be, but I'm just throwing it out there and slow rolling it, not digging the bottom. You know, and if I get around some grass, if I feel it get balled up, you know, I'm going to rip it loose. You know, right in there is kind of the edge of the grass, but I'm really never making contact with the bottom out past the grass. I may run into some sparse grass, but it's really, you know, you get it down there around them, you get that feel of when you get that bait down there. And if you're, you know, if you don't know, check bottom. You know, throw it out there. That's probably 4 foot, 1, 2, 3. I'm on bottom, so it's about 5 or 6 foot deep. And anytime during the retrieve, when you're coming back, if you don't know where you're at, you know, let it go to the bottom. A lot of times you'll get a bite when it does that. Check bottom. I'm where I need to be, just above that. You know, it's just another, there's different baits, spinnerbait, you know, lipless, all of this stuff, and then there's the term slow roll. That's what I'm doing with this thing. It's a lot like a spinnerbait. I'm just slow rolling it. The water's pretty cold, so I just wanted something with a little different action other than a spinnerbait. This bait right here, I can make them react a lot easier than a spinnerbait because I can move it. You know, I can pop it, and they may not want to bite, but when it gets around them, and if I happen to get around them whenever I make that bait jump, they're going to react just like a cat. Can't handle it. And whether you call it, you know, it used to be the XR50, the booyah, one knocker, it's all the same bait. You know, it's really, really popular grass fishing, just like, you know, throwing it up there and ripping it through the grass. But it's also a really, really good just open water bait when it gets cold. I love it when it gets cold, but I really, really love it when it gets cold and dirty, just because it's such a loud bait. They can hear it, they can feel it. I can cover a lot of water with it. It's a bass. Easy, buddy. Come on the edge of the grass. You know, every fish I've caught, which I think so far has been 3 on this, have really eaten the bait. I mean, going after the front hook. Boy, he's cold. I mean, you can tell that water's cold. He's like touching ice. It's funny, back in the day, you know, when I first started fishing, you went fishing in the wintertime, you thought the only way to catch them was drag a jig or a grub or something around. It was front page news if you caught one on a crankbait, and it's just different. I mean, it doesn't matter how cold it gets. You can catch them on moving baits. You may have to make some adjustments, but you can always catch them on moving baits. Sometimes you switch colors because you think the fish want a different color, and sometimes you switch colors because you break the only color you have on the trolling motor. Let's see if they'll bite this one. Come here. Ooh, I mean on the bank. Fish wasn't in 2 foot of water. Got one hook. You get one hook like this, there's not a great way to land them, but the biggest thing is you don't want them to change direction. Come here. One hook right in the bottom. Come here. Oh, I got her hooked. I got her in the meat. You're mine. I mean right on the bank. A lot of times in the wintertime though, it's totally different fishing in the afternoon than it is in the morning. A lot of times those fish in the morning, they'll be out there kind of hunkered up. Afternoons, you'll see them move up just like that and get super, super shallow. I was worried about this fish coming off, and it wasn't coming off. Again, see the colors on that? Looks like a rattlesnake. That fish is up there shallow. Some of those deeper fish, you know, they'll be white. That fish right there is on the bank. Setup today, Falcon, all around. It's a 7 foot. It's pretty limber. I use more of a limber rod in the wintertime, just so when I pop it, I don't want it to be, the bait to be so quick. I want just, you know, and kill it. That's why it's, you know, it's a pretty soft rod. It's the same rod I use for shallow cranking. 14-pound Sunline Sniper fluorocarbon. That line lets the bait, I mean, I can, with fluorocarbon, I can just feel the bait. And then a Lew's Hyper Mag, 7.5 to 1. Even though it's a 7.5, I'm not moving the bait a lot. You know, this is really a slow down. The reason that I want a higher speed reel is the way they hit this bait. A lot of times they hit it and they throw slack into it, so I want to be able to catch up and turn it, you know. And then this booyah one knocker, Trocar EWG there. I mean, if you get it close to them, a lot of times you'll land those fish with those super sharp hooks in the wintertime. Let's catch another one. I thought it was real. There's your video, Chad. I thought it was like really big for a second. I ain't the most agile person. Just get excited, you know, you can't wait to get back up there. Come here. I mean, stroked it and choked it. Look how black. You can just tell the difference between a deep fish and a shallow fish. Stroked it. Come here. Oh, don't get my hands cold. That's how you want him to eat it. Across his face. It's weird because they're just knocking the heck out of it. It's a nice fish. So what we done, you know, this morning we actually kind of made a pass around this creek with a spinnerbait and caught some fish. But what I want to do, I just felt like there might be another bait that they might bite a little better. And even though we caught some big ones on the spinnerbait, you know, I wanted to do this. What it has, this creek has, is like grass. It comes out 4 or 5 foot. And really that's it, and trees. So I just put a bait on that I could slow roll, kind of like a spinnerbait, and be able to cover water. A lot of times in a tournament, you know, in the winter time, whenever I have a spinnerbait in the boat, you know, tied up, I also have, you know, a lipless bait, because they kind of coincide. You can slow roll it. They have good action. You know, I can call them out of that dirty water, and also with that tied action, I can draw strikes in clear water like this. He ate it a little better. When in doubt, when fishing gets slow, get on the windiest bank you can find. Guys, I appreciate you riding along with us. See you next time. Appreciate you.